All right, Sarah, so I gave a little tease about your background, but tell the people who you are.
First of all, I am not a Florida Gators fan.
Go Gamecocks, but we hate Tennessee.
Yeah, obviously. So I'm Sarah Weeden. As Erin mentioned, I'm the Senior Director of Advertising and Creative at Papa John's. What does that mean? That means if it's creative and a consumer sees it, it comes through me. So if you hate what we're doing, please lie to me. And previously, I joined Papa John's 6 months ago. I'm still pretty new. I came from Arby's, where I was the Director of Integrated Marketing over there, and had a lot of PTSD over Super Bowl, and we don't need to get into that at all. But I grew up in ad agencies. I spent a lot of time in ad agencies, got appropriately burned out by ad agencies, and made the shift to the dark side to go with brands about 6 years ago. So that's my story.
So Papa John's just launched this new campaign. I mean, within the last month, right? Meet the Makers. So talk to us a little bit about what this campaign is doing and how it came to life.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been busy over the last 6 months. I joined the company. We've had a lot of really amazing leadership changes. We have a new president and CEO. We have a new CMO. We have a new CTO. And so we've been spending a lot of time really evaluating who we are as a brand and where we're trying to go. I think a lot of QSR is doing that right now. It was mentioned yesterday, we're all really stealing share from each other. And so in that world, how do we stand out? And so we spent a lot of time looking at who we are as a brand and getting back to kind of the roots of who Papa John's is as it relates to better ingredients, better pizza. I think in this space, we recognize that we can put all the creative out in the world, but at the end of the day, it's a price game a lot of times, and we're not always the least expensive option, but it's for a reason, and that reason is our quality. And so we really wanted to lean in creatively on how we can tell the quality story and how we can make better ingredients, better pizza matter to consumers again. And so we spent a long time really looking at our positioning and how we were bringing this to life. And we realized we had this unlock moment that one of the best ingredients we have are the people who work for our company. And the attention and the love that is put into making the pizza for our consumers. There's a story that folks love to tell that they were doing store visits, and they went into a store, and a DoorDash delivery driver was picking up a pizza from a local store, and they said, "Take good care of her," as it was leaving, which, right, it's so cute.
I love that it's a her, mind you.
Yeah, well,
Pizza is a girl, for sure.
Women supporting women. And so, but it was that moment that you go, some of these are 16-year-old kids, right? Yeah. And they're working in our stores, and if they can have that much care and attention put to the product that is leaving those stores, how can we elevate that? And so what we did is, we had this very exciting, big boy-driven campaign last year that served a role for us. And in our attempts to kind of get back to our core, we decided to really bring the story into the kitchen. And that is where you start to see, if you've seen the creative out there. It launched in March. We've had a couple different versions of it, both brand and LTO-driven messaging. And we started really using our people to tell our story. And so our Epic Stuffed Crust Pizza that is currently, or was recently in market, showing a maker actually hand-stuffing the crust. Instead of us saying, "Hey, we're Papa John's and we have hand-stuffed Epic Stuffed Crust." So really elevating those folks. And we took it even further in the sense that, yes, of course, we have casted talent because not every employee is an actor. But every piece of creative features our actual employees. Yeah. And they're stoked on it. And it's been a really nice moment to be able to kind of let our people tell our story and do it in a way that is really genuine to us as a brand and kind of breathes some new life into this tagline that we've had for a really long time.
Yeah. When you even just said, we're not the cheapest option, we're sometimes the most expensive option, you were, shy saying that. Why do you feel like we have shown and moved away from sharing the good quality ingredients of our story? Why do you feel like, as QSRs, we're so value-driven?
Yeah, it's interesting because we had a very similar experience at Arby's, I think. We spent a lot of time, especially from a creative perspective, really trying to analyze what part of our story is quality and how much we're screaming price point. And I think it really comes down to the consumers, right? There's a lot of parity in our industry, especially in pizza.
Yeah.
And it's especially complicated when everybody is trying to sell, insert one top large, one top medium, two top, whatever it looks like. And it's really trying to make consumers care again about quality, especially when we're in kind of economic chaos and there's a lot going on, and we respect every penny that everybody decides to spend with us. And so I think we're doing a lot of work trying to really analyze in that quality story what matters to the consumer and what is us just speaking to ourselves. And it's kind of hard to balance those two things. So I think as we learn more about our consumers, as we start to see what's rising to the top, both in current state and future state, because I think we all agree we've got to continue growing our audiences, it's really starting to find that balance of the two.
Well, and this campaign is almost making you realize that it's okay if you're not everything to everybody. Like, you don't need to be the valued pizza. You don't need to be the people who want the, 50-cent slice at 4 a.m. off of the street type of thing, right? And so you've got back to that core.
Exactly.
So you teased out the campaign you ran last year, right? With Big Boy, I think, with Jen Lindsay. It was a really millennial-focused campaign. What did you learn from that, and how did that kind of change your approach to really focusing on the people and the ingredients?
Yeah, great question. So admittedly, I'm 6 months in, so I was not here for a lot of that work. But I think what we really realized is we needed to first figure out who we were trying to be as a brand before we put creative on top of ourselves. And that's something that I think a lot of brands struggle with. We struggled with it in my time at Arby's as well, is like, who are we trying to be, and are we honestly being a little try hard? That's my biggest nightmare, is being a try hard brand and having people be like, oh, why did they do that? Like, there's nobody more judgmental than advertising people.
Save that.
Speaking for myself. And so I think we realized that we needed to tell a story again. And that story needed to live in a way that could really resonate with people. I think our last platform was, while really creative and exciting, couldn't tell that quality story that we really wanted to get across. It just didn't have the legs for it necessarily. And so we needed to kind of reset ourselves, and we have amazing agency partners who did that with us. And we had this opportunity to just kind of go, you know what, we're gonna let a campaign be a campaign, and that's okay. Not every campaign needs to be a big brand platform. And we're gonna find a new way in and tell our story differently.
Well, and I think it's a really good example of, like, you can't just go into culture marketing just for the sake of being relevant. Because if it's not authentic, it won't land, which is kind of what you alluded to, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So as we move into the Meet the Makers one, like, what were some of those core brand elements that you really wanted to highlight for here?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned, in the quality story, we wanted, our quality is in the making itself. So we have fresh cut ingredients in stores. We have fresh, never frozen original dough. We are hand stuffing our cheese and our epic stuffed crust. And so these are things that when I say it as a brand, you go, okay, great RTVs. But when we show it, it comes to life a lot better. We also got very lucky that, you look at your brand assets and what you have equity in and where can you lean in and authenticity. And we happen to have a couple brothers, the Bartoli brothers. I don't know if anybody is on TikTok and loves watching dough spinning videos.
Where are my other elder millennials? Yeah?
Where are their pizza people? Because you've seen it.
You're just watching the TikToks on Instagram 2 weeks later, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how we go. Okay.
Oh, we're a Reels group. Okay. And so... yeah, we have these brothers who grew up in a Papa John's. They worked there. Their dad owned it, and they make these videos on their own where they just like spin dough and honestly shoot the shit in the store, and they have crazy engagement. They kind of are these self-made influencers, and so we had this opportunity to utilize them as more of a brand asset for us and start to be a little bit more of the face of the brand. So again, we're not being try hard. We're not saying like, oh, here are people that I just hired from LA. We are really pulling in folks who are in our stores and who are already doing this because they love the brand and they love what they're doing, and doing it in a way that's engaging on platforms that, potential new audiences are living on and might care about.
Yeah. Was this creative just very different from what you guys are used to or have used to run?
Very much so.
Yeah.
I think we have a great new leadership team who sees a lot of, or has a lot of passion for what's happening in digital spaces and in social. I know everybody was hating on social yesterday. I was like, uh-oh. It's fine, I'll live there. And so we have these spaces that we're starting to really lean in a lot harder in appropriate ways. Again, not trying to be try hard and be a brand that we're not. But we have really had a lot of support from our leadership team to start to kind of play in these areas and do it in a way that's natural to us. We utilize these folks, the Bartoli brothers. We kind of just let them do their thing.
Yeah.
And I think especially we've seen this happen a lot across QSR where like employees are getting fired for doing stuff in a store on social or what have you. And it's a bummer. That's free advertising. That's crazy. So if any of those people want to come work at Papa John's, I will let you do what you want on TikTok. And so I think, we're in this really interesting space where we're letting kind of people speak for us as well. And I shout out to my legal team for letting that happen too.
Yeah. The unsung heroes of marketing, right, is legal.
My girl, Julia. So it's been a really interesting exploration for us.
Was that hard to convince leadership to go in a very different direction, or were they kind of bought in too? Because you mentioned there's lots of kind of new leaders taking over.
Everybody's bought in. We're all holding hands and really going for it, which is a really exciting place to be. I think especially coming from both my agency experience and brand side, it can be a challenge to go, we're going to go a completely new direction. We're going to try new things, whether that be creative or channels or whatever that looks like. And I think we're all recognizing like now's the time, if not now, when, and we're like full steam ahead.
Yeah. If you, I know you've been in situations where it hasn't been that easy, right? I'm sure everybody in this room is also like, wow, that would be nice if just everyone's bought it on the same page. So what advice would you give to people to help kind of share and sell this internally to be the leaders for the change management that needs to happen?
Yeah, absolutely. Somebody mentioned this yesterday too. It was probably Casey. Everybody just shout out Casey. But I mean, over communication. My poor CMO, I spend a lot of time in her office. Like, hey girl, quick question for you. So we are really talking to each other a lot. I think the other thing that we're really working on is understanding like it's okay for things not to work. And to quickly move on. I've tried very hard in my career to not be precious about anything. Yeah. Nothing's my baby except that Super Bowl spot that died.
If you guys want to hear about it, you can feed us at the bar later. Like we're not going to talk about it on
like
stage.
4 drinks for that one. It did come to life. It was Ving Rhames. If you saw it during March Madness last year.
It did. That's true.
Whatever. And so. And so, we try not to be precious. We recognize not everything is going to work and be able to move quickly. That is the beauty of QSR, is we're all moving really, really fast. And while that can be exhausting, it's really helpful because it makes you go like, oh, man, that didn't land. Okay, try something else.
Yeah.
And that really gives us this opportunity to just find what's really working for us and what's not, and be okay moving on if we have to.
Let's get out of the negative, right? We all have the lessons learned, the failures, and they're needed in what we do. Whether at Papa John's or in your previous life, like what's been one campaign that's really stuck out to you that you're like, y'all, we nailed that?
Abby made me so happy. I don't know where she is. There she is. Because she called it out yesterday, and it's like every marketer's dream to have the franchisees say something they like to.
That is true. That is true.
So the Good Burger 2 campaign at Arby's was actually my baby. I lied to you just now. It was such a special campaign for us because I think we're all looking for opportunities as brands of how we can connect with culture, right? And the burger was very new to Arby's, was something we needed to really latch on to something in culture to tell a story. And this movie was coming out, and we all went like, okay, this could be interesting. we have a slightly older audience, so this like elder millennial nostalgia thing could be, and it was like this little nut we were trying to crack. And working closely with our media partners to get this Paramount Plus relationship and all of this, and it was all like feeling good. And then we were like, you know what, if we're gonna do it, like we gotta go big or go home. Yeah. And so we introduced this LTO strawberry shake, which, if you know the original Good Burger, the strawberry shake's a kind of integral part of the storyline. And it ended up being the #1 LTO shake in Arby's history.
Wow.
And you go, as a marketer, sure, I love impressions, and I love being able to say, like, oh, folks saw this. I really love being able to say our idea was the #1 LTO shake in Arby's history. Because at the end of the day, marketers are not the enemy. I really want to sell things too. I want to get the bonus. And so I think it was that moment where we were really able to take this partnership, instead of just slapping an IP on it, we elevate it to a new space. We had amazing partners in Paramount Plus, like 10 out of 10 guys, you should work with them if you haven't. They were giving us added value Times Square billboards, like, huh? So being able to even go in that world where you're working with great partners. We had the puppeteers from the movie in our spots. Like, it was so integrated, truly. And I think a lot of times in these IP spaces, we live in a world of like, okay, cool, it's gonna be my logo, straight line, your logo, and here we are. And it wasn't that for us at all. So I think those are the opportunities I'm always looking for. Like, how can we take things, how can we be part of culture, get people talking, but do it in a way that's like going to actually drive incremental sales and get us to a point that the franchisees are going to keep approving me bringing these ideas to the table. Because the second they don't approve them anymore.
You're done. Yeah. So when that activation was kind of getting kicked up and you found the partnership, you found the authentic connection, did you go into it and being like, hey, we really need to reach the younger demographic and we know that the Good Burger 2 is going to make that happen? Or did you really want to drive sales? Did you really think like this long-term brand storytelling could actually drive immediate sales overnight?
I think there was a hope that it would drive sales.
Honest, I appreciate it.
There's always this interest in getting eyes from other folks. I think we are in this interesting space where every brand is like Gen Z right now. And when we were at Arby's and we recognized our core audience was a little older, our Gen Z was millennial. And so how do we attract a different group that doesn't have to be what every other brand is going for, which I think kind of goes back to the authenticity of a brand. Like, let's look in the mirror and know who we really are, and not try to be something we're not. And so it was this attempt to kind of get some attention, bring in some younger audiences, find this nostalgia factor. But also, I mean, we tied it to food, right? Yeah. We could have easily just like had a fun little partnership with Good Burger 2 and not made it LTO driven. Yeah. And it would not have done the same thing. Yeah. It just wouldn't have.
Yeah. So you teased a little bit about the social element, right? And you also talked about how Papa John's was lucky that you had these natural influencers or creators as part of the storytelling. Like, how important has social media, or is social media coming for you guys, like with the surge of the creator economy that's happening?
First of all, I should have become an influencer because these people,
I've missed my mark.
When they get paid, y'all, it is wild. I'm like, you're 22. So it's really unfair. Anyway, it's really interesting because I think a lot of brands are trying to play in this space right now. And again, not wanting to be a try-hard brand, the second biggest nightmare of mine is having a creator ad that feels like an ad. It's like the hashtag ad at the end is like, ugh. So I think we're really trying to find our space in there. We are leaning in on our actual employees in that space, like we did with the Bartolis. This week, we just launched a campaign around Meet the Makers on social, where we're inviting our employees to submit their own, create your own recipes, and we're gonna pick one and actually put it on our menu. So trying to continue elevating our employees. So go like it on TikTok if you wanna eat it. But find our space and where it makes the most sense. I think we all have ambition to live in this area. Yeah. We want to move as quickly as we can, but I don't I think we don't want to move too quickly, that we're making the wrong strategic choices. So there's a little bit of test and learn happening, a little bit of getting ourselves ready for the future. But in our world, it would be a miss to not be there.
You talked about a creator ad feeling like an ad, right? And it introduces an interesting paradox that we're in. Creator-led content that is unfiltered, maybe a little messy, or the overproduced brand content. Where do you sit on that spectrum?
That's hard. It's funny because I probably live in the middle, to be honest. I am very big on authenticity in food advertising. I don't want to live in a world of overly styled food where what you see in a linear TV commercial is so vastly different than what you're going to see when you go into the store and buy it. That's part of why we moved our campaign into the kitchen. So you're really seeing like the full process, like opening the curtain for the consumers and giving them insight into what we're doing as a brand. We have nothing to hide here. We're proud of it. And at the same time, living in a world where we're letting creators tell their story in their way. And so it's really important that we're working with creators that actually care about our brand. Yeah. Like, y'all, Steph Curry was not eating Subway. Let's be real, right? And so...
But Tom Brady was, right?
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah, the man only eats green peppers, but okay. So I think like that is the space that we're trying really hard to make sure we're working with folks that are like really like us, right? Yeah. Like I'm not trying to pay you a lot of money to pretend like you like my brand.
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing about QSR is it is an industry that whether you shout it from the rooftops or not, like everybody likes QSR. Let's be real.
Oh yeah.
And so we are working really hard to kind of find those natural partnerships and make sure that we are not just like, pay to play.
Yeah. I mean, you're an advertising girl through and through, right? So is it hard for you to kind of let go of the brand control sometimes to like let the creators do their thing?
Honestly, I can probably let go a lot more than other people can. 'Cause again, not precious about anything. Let's see what works and let it work. And if it doesn't, whoops. And so it's really been okay. I think a lot of it too is finding the right personalities for us as a brand and the folks who are willing to be collaborative. We're not trying to dictate what they're doing, but we also recognize like you're still gonna hit a few talking points. Yeah. And so really staying close on all of that, honestly, it's been more of a collaboration. I hate to say bring legal up again. I just love Julia so much. But it has been a big collaboration of like understanding where we're comfortable as a brand and risk assessment and being okay, being a little riskier in spaces where you're allowed to be.
Yeah. Last question before we open it up to the audience. Most important question I will ask you all day. What topping do you put on your pizza?
That's an important question. My house, we are a sausage mushroom house. Okay. I also have a 4-year-old who has informed me that the only pizza you're allowed to eat is triangle pizza. Square pizza sucks, which I don't necessarily agree, but it's fine. She runs our house. And so, sausage and mushroom and garlic sauce.
Okay, all right. I lied. Last question. How do you feel about pineapple on pizza?
Pineapple jalapeno, highly underrated.
Ooh,
so good.
Hot take. We will end it there. Open it up to audience Q&A.
Hi, I'm Lauren Albin from Locality. I wanted to ask a question. So we know that Papa John's kind of pulled and sort of moved to a national scope last year and really pulled out of local. So at Locality, we did a recent study we commissioned through the Harris Poll, and it was called the Local Lift. And it came back and really talked about that consumers really want to feel brands are local. And when you have a local ad, it really increases brand favorability, consideration, purchase intent. So I'm wondering from really just a creative standpoint, like is there any talk about kind of local ads? Because that's what I do.
Yes, nice question. No, I'm kidding. It's funny, I think turn my actual body toward you. I think the balance of national and local is something that QSR is debating a lot, right? We debated it at Arby's, we're definitely debating it at Papa John's, and we probably all waver back and forth a little bit, honestly, like year over year. We say it for Papa John's, and this was mentioned in a roundtable yesterday, like, I work for our franchisees. And that's where my budget's coming from, and I take it very seriously how I'm spending their money. And so there is this very fine balance of national, but letting local markets feel like they have support. We are working through that balance, right? I think we always try to make ourselves available to our local teams. We just had a conference last week. I had a lot of folks come up to me and ask for more local. And I'm like, cool, yeah, let's do it. I want to make sure that as a national corporate brand, we don't feel like corporate, and that we're really supporting our local teams in the best way that we can. And I think we have that ambition across our entire org. I'm also a single woman who can only do so much. And so it's that balance of making sure that we're supporting in the best way we can, but also recognizing the realities. And so we do let our local teams create their own work that they submit to me and my internal creative group for review, notes, what have you. And so we try to elevate them and provide as much as we can while, we're looking at our overall business structure and how we support.
Great, thank you. One more quick question. In today's day and age, and we know that there's a lot of health-conscious people out there, and specifically gluten-free, and I've noticed that a lot of pizza QSRs don't offer a cauliflower crust or a gluten-free crust.
We do have a gluten-free crust.
Just
okay.
softball
Please
right
enjoy tonight.
Thank you.
She was a plant,
That
Sarah.
was such a
You're
plant.
welcome.
Oh my God.
That's
Nice.
what MediaPost does for you.
Right here?
Oh, we have. Oh.
Mitch Johnson with Arby's.
Oh, nice to meet you, Matt.
Have you been able to watch a Super Bowl since?
We're all like
Mitch.
collective PTSD here.
Take his mic, John.
That's it. Yeah, that was my only question. No, I'm kidding. You were talking about social earlier, and do you work with a social media agency, or are you doing that in-house when you're picking influencers? How do you do that?
It's a bit of a combination. We do have an agency that we work with. We also, some of our influencer relationships, especially when they're employees, we manage in-house as well. And so we're kind of sorting through what all of that looks like, to be honest. We have a crew of folks internally who they're like our Gen Zs of the office. I'm not on that committee. And they're always watching what competitors are doing. We've got a whole Teams chat going this morning, what our friends at Pizza Hut are up to. I'm sure Casey at Domino's has seen that too. And we're always watching what's happening in culture and trying to stay on top of those things, whether it's something that we can react to really quickly with our in-house group, or if it's a longer term, more strategic planned concept that we're working with our agencies. It's that balance of being able to act real time and also plan conceptually, and so we've got to kind of keep it in both places to be able to do both things.
And does the social agency or does Papa John's manage like the tiki-taki and all of the social media sites?
Tiki-taki.
Mitch is old, if anybody needed to know. He just said tiki-taki.
We manage. So silly. We manage the actual platforms themselves. As far as posting and all of that is concerned, community response, that space. And then we're really leaning on our agencies more for content production.
So if you
Okay, no more-
it's like
no, we-
40 okay.
We gotta cut you off, bud.
Suddenly we have a panel going on here. What the hell?
You would think Mitch and
we
I
had
did not work
one-
together before.
Okay.
Good morning. I just want to know if I can still get a Shakaroni.
You're a big fan, huh? I don't know.
You can find that on Tiki Taki.
I think we
Yeah.
have one more question over here, John.
All right.
Hi, this is Bobby from Atmosphere. Sarah, I'm curious if there are brands out there who are sort of nailing it for you creatively, like telling their story. We're going to overuse the word authentic, but it is important, either in the QSR space or not. Are they sort of aspirational for you creatively that say, we need to do that like that?
That's an interview question. So, okay, I'm gonna be real, and this is something I know I have like folks listening on the line too. Sorry, guys. I try really hard not to compare myself to other brands because, and it goes back to the authenticity piece, right? Like, it's very easy to get jealous of what other brands are doing. And guess what? Those other brands may have like way bigger budgets, or they may be living in a space that isn't who we are. And so, as a creative and as a consumer, I obviously like what other brands are doing. We've had a lot of talks recently about Starbucks, and I don't like Starbucks. I'm a Dunkin' girl through and through. However, we've been watching what they've been doing, and they're advertising it on social, and they're acting very authentic to their brand and kind of living in that space too. But at the same time, I don't want to be them, right? We're Papa John's, and that's who we are, and we're proud of that. And so, while we're always watching what's happening in the market, I try not to really live with it for too long because we're all different brands living in different spaces. And I just don't want to get jealous, mostly. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of like a non-answer, but it's honest. Authentic to myself. And, yeah, I mean, it's always fun to see what's happening out there. Like I said, Starbucks is kind of one we've been keeping eyes on recently, and obviously we're watching all our competitors. But we're doing more so from a learning versus a, application.
I think we could probably keep you up here all day, Sarah.
Yeah,
but
let's do
alas,
it.
we must move on. Thank you so much for joining us
Thank
this
you.
morning.